Okay, it's 6 o'clock, and we're ready to roll on our meeting. Welcome, everybody, for our April 15th, 2025 Prior Lake Spring Lake Watershed District Board meeting. And our first item is to call this meeting to order and Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
to
the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, our next item of business is a public comment period. This is where the public can come and speak on an item that's not on the agenda, and we limit your time usually to 5 minutes. So if anybody, I know we have a couple people that want to speak, so whoever wants to go first, come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and welcome.
Good evening. My name is Craig Barnd. I reside at 20588 Zeon Avenue. That is spelled Xeon, Jordan, Minnesota. And the reason I'm here tonight is to voice a grievance I have with the outlet structure on Sutton Lake and how that is negatively impacting my property. Right now I am looking at approximately 4 acres of flooded pasture in my land, which has been there for about a month now, and this has happened ever since they put the structure in there. The water recedes during a drought. I have lived there for 42 years now and never been impacted so much with the water heights there. We did have occurrences where a beaver might make a ditch in Chad Sandy's ditch, which the outlet runs through his ditch and then into ditch 13, but would remove the dam, trap the beaver, and within maybe 2-3 days the water would recede and be back to normal. Last year, I know it was a wet year, but actually my horses, we've got some livestock, and my horses, I didn't know it, were the grass had grown up, and then I had them in the pasture there, and they actually got a disease on their legs called scratches, and they were actually standing in water there, and which made them kind of lame and sore. And then for them, the water ponds south of my house, and then I've got more property to the south of where the water stands, but for them to get to that, they've got to go through the wetland, and right now it's kind of useless to me. And I guess what really burns me is that when they started this, before they even started the project, they were having meetings at the Spring Lake Township Hall, and I voiced my opinion there, told them that if they start regulating the level of Sutton Lake there, that it was going to impact my property. And my property has a ditch that runs through it, but it doesn't drain into the Sutton Lake. It bypasses the structure. But I've been there long enough to know that it is peat ground, and when the lake level changes, the water travels underground and seeks its level.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. It sounds like the water in the lake is somehow coming underneath and coming up.
Correct. And I guess I don't know any solutions for it.
Okay.
That's why I'm here tonight to see what maybe the watershed has in mind. I don't know if it would be to release the water out of the lake a little more than what it is. Maybe they don't have the readings right on what the the level of the lake is. I'm just not sure, but I just know it's, not that I'm planning on going anywhere, but it sure is an eyesore to me, and I would think it devalues my property having that wasteland, I'm going to call it now.
Well,
So,
Mr. Barnes?
yeah.
Yeah, I think we would probably have to direct this to staff to investigate it, because we're members of the board here. We aren't familiar with this issue. This is the first time we've heard of it. So I would think we would direct staff to look into this. I can't remember when we put the structure in. It's been a few years, about 4 or
I think
5.
it's been 3 years now. I'm not real sure. 2 for sure.
Yeah, so I think we'd have to have staff
think
go
in,
back and look at the design, look when it was put in, and is this have you made this mention before that you had?
I've been in contact with the watershed last year. I talked to Soil and Water Conservation out of Jordan, and one suggestion they had was to clean my ditch out, which I had a neighbor that was good enough that let me use an excavator, and I dug my ditch down probably 3 foot at maybe a 300-yard stretch. So that's been, but all that did was make a deeper channel for water. So it's, I know that the level of the lake is what's creating the problem.
Okay. Well, thank you for your bringing this to our attention.
Yeah, thank you for your time, appreciate it.
Yes, and did you want to say something, ma'am?
They guaranteed us that it wasn't going to affect our land when this was first started doing this to Sutton Lake. And because we had concerns because of the peat, and we know how the land works because we've been there for 42 years, and they guaranteed us it would have no impact on our land at all. And what happened is just what we thought was going to happen. And we can't even access that for our horses now. And we've got it electricked off, so they can't even get down there because of this disease they got last year. And I wanted to make you aware of the fact that they guaranteed that was not going to happen to our land.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Barnes. Yeah. Well, we will look into it, direct staff to look into this issue and get back to us on the board. That's all we can do right now. We can't take any action because it's not on our agenda, but we'll have them look into it and report back to us. Okay? Thank you. All right, this is a time for public comment. And anybody who wants to speak to the board on an issue that's not on the agenda, feel free to come up. State your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Wesley Steffen. My address is 2350 Raymond Avenue, Jordan, Minnesota. I'm also the president of the Spring Lake Association, and we recently just sent out 450 copies of our spring newsletter. And I'd like to just make mention of the fact that there's a lot of good information in here about what the watershed's doing. There's articles on the ferric chloride system. There's articles on what the watershed is. Opportunities with the CAC to get involved with the CAC, as well as we also work with the watershed with carp management activities. So in addition to that, we also have our schedule of events this year. If you're aware of the fact that we have a new park on the north side of the lake, we plan on having our summer concert there this summer in July. So in addition to that, we'd like to see any and all of you at our events. And if you want more information, our website is located at www.springlakeassociation.org. And
Okay, good stuff. It's a good newsletter. If anybody has a chance to read it, please do. Okay, and we have one more person who wants to address the board. And state your name and address and welcome.
Hi there, my name is Pam Dorr, and I reside at 9220 153rd Street West, Prior Lake. I just wanted to say that before I start talking too much, that I have a paralysis in my face and my eye doesn't blink, just in case you are looking at me and wondering about that. I don't want it to distract you from what I'm saying. I live across the street from a little lake called Kate's Lake. And a couple years ago, a few goldfish koi showed up in that lake, and I walk by the lake. My husband and I walk by the lake. And this year, when we were walking by the lake, there were thousands of babies, like thousands of them. There's just been a mass reproduction of them. And so I know they're an invasive species. I called here and didn't know if it was Prior Lake's issue or the DNR's issue. And they told me to come here to speak to Prior Lake's watershed facility about the fish. So I did a little research, and they destroy the habitat of our natural species. It's a small lake, but there's still fish, little fish and things like that in there. We get loons every year, lots of birds. And so we know that there's a balance to nature. And when you get an invasive species, that throws the balance off and can totally disrupt the environment. And it's not a big lake, so this amount of fish in there is pretty destructive. They uproot the plants, they disturb the sediments, they damage the spawning area for the species. They produce a lot of waste. If you've ever seen goldfish in a bowl, you know that. And therefore, they produce a lot of nitrogen and phosphorus, which can lead to an overgrowth of algae, which depletes the oxygen levels in the water, causing harm to all aquatic life. And they also compete for food with the native fish and will disrupt and often overtake the natural species of the lake. So I'm a school teacher. I teach 5th grade, and I teach life science. And we have a whole unit on invasive species. And so I just feel like I teach my kids that we're supposed to protect our natural resources. And so walking by the lake and seeing this feels like something that needs to be done to protect our little lake. And I know I've talked to some of the people that live right on the lake, and they're concerned too, but nobody wants to come out and do anything. And so I'm kind of here just saying, you know, for Prior Lake, for our community, and for that little lake, I hope that there's something that we can do. I look at it like, I don't know if you want me to take my students and try to go down there in canoes and try to net the fish, but something needs to be done. And yesterday after school, my husband and I were walking, and we stopped to just try to, I don't know, you can't really count them because there's so many and they're moving, but we were watching them. And all of a sudden, we saw one huge school kind of just shift a little bit, and we saw in the distance a snapping turtle moving towards them, right? It was great. It was like National Geographic, only we were there. And it's moving along, and the fish were getting a little nervous, and it got closer and closer, and it was a pretty good-sized snapper. And all of a sudden, it dived down, and it came right up, just its head, right in between this huge group of these little goldfish. And they moved a little bit, and it just bobbed up and down with its little head. And then it looked around, and I'm thinking for sure, it's going to nab one of them, right? And so the fish came closer and closer, and he's waiting and waiting. Those fish came right up to that turtle. He never ate one. He went back down and left. And I just thought, you know, they probably don't eat those fish. So think about that, that they probably don't have a natural predator to them. And therefore, that's why they've grown to such a high population over such a short amount of time. Because we noticed a few orange fish in there probably 2 years ago, and now it's massive. So just would really love to have somebody who really knows what they're doing to come out and scoop those up and do whatever you do with them. But my question is, you don't want me doing it. I know that, or my students. But is it this the right place to be, or do I need to go somewhere else, like to the DNR, or who actually will do something?
Well, Ms. Dorr, I can tell you, we have had discussions about this issue, and I think staff probably can tell you what we've been doing and what's going on, because I know when City of Savage was supposed to have a study done, and we were waiting for the results of that study. So, anybody on staff want to address this issue real quick?
President Loney, Ms. Storr, the study from Savage will likely not become public for that I'm aware at this point. So it's sort of in this perpetuity of, budget constraints. We're familiar with the goldfish in Kate's Lake. We've observed them for the last four or so years. And we currently don't have a management plan to conduct any studies on the lake. So at this point, we're aware that they're there. We don't have direction to take action within the goldfish population.
So who directs the action?
That's a good question. There are organizations that can choose to take action. You mentioned the DNR, and they have a fairly hands-off approach on goldfish. Goldfish are a new AIS. It's a relatively new emerging topic. There's still a lot to be learned on their impacts on systems. Unlike common carp that we've managed, or that have been in our systems for decades, we have a greater understanding of their impacts and a greater body of resources that we can pull from and take action. And we're in the process of working with common carp. Goldfish are new to us, so we've taken, I'm speaking generally here, we've taken a pretty hands-off approach until more research has been developed. So there are some novel techniques at removing goldfish, but it's a new topic, and we are continuously looking and learning about how to manage goldfish. So we haven't taken that first big step at taking action in Kate's Lake at this point.
So I went on the DNR website, and they have a whole section about the invasiveness of the goldfish koi, and they also have pictures of how to remove them. So it seems like they are in belief that they should be removed, having that information for the public. So is there anything that I can do besides actually just get some canoes and try to go out there and net them myself? I mean, have you walked, do you know the bridge? Okay, if you park and stand on that bridge and watch, it's gold the whole length of the bridge. When you look out there. That's how many goldfish there are. There are thousands and thousands of them. And it's not a big lake. I get if it's a huge lake and you got a lot of big fish to eat them, or maybe northerns or something, because it did say on the DNR you can try to stock your lake with northerns, but I don't think that's the answer, just remove the invasive species before it completely takes over a small lake.
Well, Ms. Dorr, I know we've had this issue, we've been working on it, and like Jeff mentioned, it's kind of a new phenomena. It's a new how to deal with it. We're trying to work with the City of Savage and the DNR and look at what are our options. I don't want to say we're not doing anything, but we are looking at it, because I know Jeff had a presentation to us a couple months ago saying, here's the situation, and we're looking at what we can do. So I would suggest to keep in touch with our staff and see what progress we can make. City of Savage is also, and their water resource person is involved. So you can contact him or her, whoever that person is.
Okay,
And
they told me
They
to,
would be able to give you some suggestions and help as well.
okay.
But we're working on it, but we don't quite know what to do yet.
So if I go out there and do something, will I get in trouble?
You do whatever.
The work that we do involved in all fisheries activities is permitted by the DNR. So any removal of fish outside of hook and line is permitted, regulated work.
So that means you have to get approval to do that from the DNR?
Correct.
Okay.
But
So it sounds like a good field trip for a school to do.
possibilities right there are endless. Yeah.
Okay. So would Jeff and Emily, would you be the people that I contact or stay in contact with?
Yeah, I would be the best person to contact.
Jeff? Okay. All right. Thank you for your time.
Hey, thank you. Appreciate your coming here tonight, letting us know. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Okay, is there anybody else that wants to speak to us under public comment?
Pam, I just wanted to mention one thing. So you mentioned the DNR, so I think that's also a good place to contact and talk to them. And another thing that's also important is money. So if you have a neighborhood that gets together and want to do something about it and are able to raise funds and can meet up with that, that's always, could be a good thing. I don't know, but look, those are some other thoughts I had. Well, I don't know, but for sure you would want to talk to the DNR, I think. That's relevant. But I also know is if the goldfish will be removed, that's going to cost money, and they're probably done by a professional. So you have to raise the funds for it somehow.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Well, now next item on the agenda is a public hearing for the Spring Lake West Iron Enhanced Sand Filter Project ordering. And this item, we need to first of all open the public hearing. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing? Second. Okay, motion made by Manager Boyle, second by Manager Burnett. All in favor of opening the public hearing, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, so now we're going to have a presentation of the project by district staff.
Yep, I'll take that. This will be pretty brief. Public hearings are required by Minnesota Statute 103B 251. And essentially, it just gives the public a chance to understand which capital projects we intend on proceeding with and present the public benefit of them. So the project we're presenting today is the Spring Lake West Iron Enhanced Sand Filter. It's not a new project to the district's goals. It's been in our Water Resources Management Plan. And really what it's targeted at is helping us reduce our nutrient impairment on Spring Lake particularly, and then downstream Upper Prior Lake. There's been a feasibility study to support this that was completed in 2022. And there's recently some potential for easement acquisition, which is the impetus for bringing this forward for a public hearing currently. It would reduce the phosphorus load by about 207 pounds per year, which is roughly 7% of our total reductions needed, according to our total maximum daily load set by MPCA. And the intent with this project and public hearing would be to fulfill the public hearing requirements, and just a note that district staff would intend to seek grant funding to support further implementation with like final design and construction. So there will be another opportunity for board discussion on this in the resolution project ordering part of the agenda, but I believe public hearing is for public comment. So with that, I'll hand it back to you, Bruce.
All right, thank you. And as mentioned, this is a public hearing on the Spring Lake West Iron Enhanced Sand Filter, and we're opening up now for opportunity for the public to comment on this potential project. I'm not seeing anybody running to the podium, so I don't see any public wants to make a comment right now. So the next item would be to close the public hearing. Motion to be made.
So moved.
Motion by Manager Burnett.
Second.
Second by Manager Morkenberg. All in favor of the motion to close the public hearing, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. And I think as Emily mentioned, we will take further action on this item on item 4.5 in our agenda. So now we need to approve that agenda. And I don't believe there's any deletions or additions from staff. There's any deletions or addition on board. So then I would need a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
So moved.
I got Manager Morkenberg first, Manager Boyle second. Any more discussion on the motion? Not hearing any. Okay, so we're ready to vote. All in favor of the motion to approve the agenda, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Now we're going to move to old and new business. First item is programs and project update. And that's from staff.
All right. To start off the programs, we'll start with lake level graphing. So Prior Lake has started to climb with spring rains. So the level is at 901.52. Our goal over the next 2 weeks is to keep the lake level at or below 902 in anticipation of the pipelining project. The Spring Lake level logger is installed, but we are not transmitting that data right now. The elevation of the sensor is, we're uncertain due to ice off shifting some of the well. So as soon as we get in professional elevation data from the DNR, we'll correct the current information back to March, and we'll have all that information displayed on the website. Over the last month, Zach and I performed outlet structure maintenance. We closed and opened the main gate. We opened and closed the low gate and greased all the points and the slides. So we anticipate needing to use these gates before and after the pipelining project. So they were in working order, which is good. We tracked carp. Zach installed pit stations. We are preparing for spring migration through the installation of barriers and through the installation of traps and maintenance of barriers. We've begun planning and permitting for bluegill stocking that we anticipate to happen in the next 30 days. So in the middle of the screen is a carp espionage form. Just want to highlight that on our website, under carp management, we have a form that we like to share with the public that they can all help us locate and keep track of carp. So you can keep this webpage handy and share information on where carp are located, and that gets sent to all the staff through a form. So it's pretty slick, and we have used these to take action to remove thousands and thousands of pounds of carp in the past few years. So it's a really cool tool that we developed, and just want to share that out. It's called carp espionage. Within monitoring and research, we've installed all our stream and lake level sensors. The CAMP program has been coordinated and initiated. Sampling starts next week. We have officialized the SWAG grant for spring, prior, upper and lower, and Fish Lake. So we'll start that lake water quality monitoring program in May. We've also begun coordinating the curly-leaf pondweed treatments. Over the next few slides, I'll be talking about Tier 1 and Tier 2, Tier 2 and Tier 3 report cards. As a reminder, Tier 2 lakes represent lakes with a significant recent or planned investment to the resource. Management of these lakes have an impact on Tier 1 lakes, and that impact being, say, nutrient loading or volume, water, so how much water is actually contributing to the lakes. Tier 3 lakes are classified as needing additional data to assess condition, and these lakes tend to have limited or no public access. So we'll start with Buck Lake, and I'll just be going through, I'll highlight a small piece of the report card, and these report cards will be on our website. So Buck Lake is just upstream of Spring Lake, which a recent project for the Buck Channel, or Buck Stream, was just completed. So the water quality grades here are, a little all over the place, with phosphorus having an F and chlorophyll having a B. I think the big trend, something to notice here is that the 10-year history graph has a significantly declining trend. So something we're keeping an eye on. Hopefully that stream stabilization project will turn that around. This is that stream restoration project that was just completed, and we've put our sensors back in, and we're hoping to collect data that shows that this project is making a positive impact on the lake. Arctic Lake is just upstream of Upper Prior Lake. So Arctic Lake has primarily been managed through projects coordinated by Shakopee, Metawak, and Sioux community. Arctic Lake has relatively poor water quality, though if you look at the 10-year trends, phosphorus and clarity are improving. So SMSC has been taking the lead and has established many really good projects over the last several years. So, this benefits Upper Prior Lake tremendously. Next, we'll talk about Pike Lake, and we really look at Pike Lake in two different lakes. So the west side has the Prior Lake outlet channel that flows in and out of it, and Pike Lake East is sort of this, secondary basin that receives agricultural runoff, and overall the lake is fairly degraded and has poor water quality. Pike Lake East is heavily influenced by whether or not the Prior Lake outlet channel is flowing. So when Prior Lake is flowing, it receives great water quality. As we've discussed the report cards several months ago, Lower Prior Lake has excellent water quality, so that really impacts Pike Lake West. Pike Lake East, on the other hand, does not generally receive that same water because it's kind of cut off from that side. So you can see during the drought years, a couple of years ago, it declined. So Pike Lake East needs some help. Pike Lake West, heavily influenced by dense vegetation and the outlet channel. So chlorophyll A has been improving. Pike Lake has zebra mussels, which could be contributing to improved water clarity over the past few years. But I think the one to note here is that when the Prior Lake outlet channel was not flowing, generally 2022, 2021 to 2024, phosphorus levels climbed. So these two photos represent what Pike East and West look like. Pike West is plant dominated. These are excellent textbook examples of shallow lakes and how they either tend to have a pendulum to the plant-dominated clear state or the turbid algae state. And if you look at the photo at the top left here, that you're seeing clear and turbid. Moving on to Hoss Lake, and this is now these are going to be tier 3 lakes. Hoss Lake is a shallow lake and is generally plant dominated during the growing season. Phosphorus has been declining. We've had a resident discuss this with us for the last several years. So, it's another interesting aspect that, the lake several years ago had, over 10 years ago had what appears to be better water quality, and now it's definitely, the level is above the standard for shallow lakes. So here's just, these red dots in this picture represent where heavy growth of vegetation occurs. So fully dominated by plants. Cates Lake is a small lake that has generally quite good water quality. It's been improving. Phosphorus and chlorophyll A have been improving. Clarity has been declining. All these metrics meet state standards. But as we have just heard recently, there's goldfish in this lake. This is an excellent picture our camp volunteer took of what one of these small pods of goldfish look like. And there's hundreds in this little picture, and there's likely hundreds and thousands in the lake at this point. So our goal here is maintaining good water quality. So those were the report cards. You can find those on our website. We should have those all uploaded by tomorrow. Any questions on programs?
Any questions for Jeff? Manager Morkenberg.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on that Arctic lake. As you can see, the water quality is improving. And I think it's a very good example of several agencies working together to improve water quality. And if you walk over there, you can see that in terms of the water that comes into the lake, you have and as an example, an iron-enhanced sand filter, like we talked about earlier, that filters a lot of the water. But also the Sioux community has done an outstanding job with the surrounding land, where they have a big prairie restoration project that very much helps the water that flows into the lake from the hills. So overall, I'm optimistic that hopefully that Arctic Lake will continue to improve with some of the more long-term passive approaches, which is good to see.
I had just one quick question, Jeff. I always thought phosphorus and the chlorophyll A kind of went hand in hand, but some of your reports show quite a difference. Can you explain why, you might have a F for phosphorus, but then maybe a C or even a B for chlorophyll A?
Yeah, there can President Loney, there can be sometimes an inverse relationship between these three different standards. So, the amount of algae in the lake can correlate with chlorophyll A. Chlorophyll A is just the measure of algae, just the color spectrum of the amount of algae in the lake. So when there's a lot of phosphorus, there can be a lot of algae. So when there's not a lot of phosphorus, generally there's not a lot of chlorophyll A for that to feed on. Sometimes, and then clarity has a large impact. The clarity measurement has a large impact based on chlorophyll A, how much green algae is in the lake. So, sometimes these numbers can change based on the quality of data, how much data is available. All this data is from June through September. So, the more measurements, the better. You get a better representation of the values. But as far as, the difference between phosphorus and chlorophyll A, they really play off of each other.
Yeah, that's why I thought they should be, one's a D, one might be a D or a C. I mean, you had some that were quite a bit, there's one right there. That's quite a difference, so, I mean, the way I look at it, there's a lot of phosphorus there, but it's the kind of phosphorus that algae doesn't like, or something like that, or that algae doesn't form. Or when you took the test, algae still hadn't quite formed, or something like that. So, just curious.
Yeah.
Usually, most of the reports I usually see in the bigger lakes, they're pretty close.
And sometimes if there's a lot of phosphorus, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's bound within chlorophyll A, or it's available to, it could be sediment, it could be different forms of phosphorus that, say if it's already bound, it's not going to get eaten by algae.
Okay. It's just a curiosity question.
Okay.
Manager Morkenberg.
Yes, so as an example for Buck Lake, when it gets an F for phosphorus, is that related to the actual number for phosphorus, like a level of 120 to get an F, or is it relative to that lake? So would an F in Buck Lake be the same as a F in Upper Prior Lake?
Yes, so these grades are based on the state standards so these are all shallow lakes, so it'd all be related to shallow lake standards. But how the grade works is based on the frequency of the frequency of the result, like how often that's happening, and the amplitude at which it goes above the state standard. So there's a lot of statistics involved with the seasonality, how many times it fails, and how high it goes above that standard. So each lake has.
Yeah, I guess my question is an F, is that phosphorus level of 120 in both a shallow lake and in a deeper lake, or is it different?
The same for shallow lakes.
Pardon?
Yeah, the grades would be the same for shallow lakes. Those are comparable.
Yeah,
For deeper lakes, it would be different.
okay. Thank you.
Okay. Where are we at? Are we at projects or something like that?
Yes, we are. Okay, so I just wanted to do a little bit of refocusing because we've made a lot of progress in the past calendar year. And so I wanted to remind us of our big goals and check in on where we're at them. So you can see the 3 icons on the screen. Those are our 3 priority concerns that are set out in our water resource management plan. We had kind of identified projects that we wanted to work on for each of those to make the most difference that we could in the near term. So I'm going to walk through the water quality and the flooding goals. Jeff already touched about AIS a little bit. So the water quality goals, again, just to reiterate some things that you've heard before, but for Spring Lake, there is a total maximum daily load, which is a water quality goal set by MPCA that says we should reduce the nutrients coming into Spring Lake by just under 3,000 pounds per year. So the map kind of shows a heat map of where we should look at making those improvements. And we at the district did a lot of prioritization efforts to kind of focus that work. One of those elements of that work was to figure out, okay, let's look at our 4 main contributors to Spring Lake and pick the biggest projects on those. So here are the 3 biggest projects on our 3 biggest tributaries. And you can see that reflected here. So buck ferric chloride in red, the first one is located in the buckfish subwatershed. It's the biggest nutrient reducer. Then our next bullet is MBCD13 IESF, which stands for Iron Enhanced Sand Filter. And that would be this little sand blob here and filter out nutrients flowing through the County Ditch 13 system. And then the last colored bullet, the third one, Spring West Iron Enhanced Sand Filter, would do that same function on the Spring West tributary. So those were the 3 kind of big powerhouse nutrient load reducers. And that's what our dumbbell symbolizes. And then we had these 3 projects that are listed below that we had landowners that were willing to work with us on and grant funding available. So those were kind of projects of opportunity that still provided great benefit that we wanted to proceed with. So if we completed all of these, we would be 64% of the way to that goal set by MPCA. And so I just wanted to give us a sense of where we've gone with those. And I kind of did this stoplight function here. So a green circle means that it's a go, active or complete if it has a check mark. Yellow triangle is where it's in the works, and then a red diamond is haven't made contact with the landowner yet. So buck ferric chloride, as you'll see, is the only one that we haven't made contact with. We are working on MBCD13 Iron Enhanced Sand Filter in discussions with them. Thank you, Manager Loney, for your assistance on that. And hopeful to turn Spring West Iron Enhanced Sand Filter into a green circle soon. We're in good discussions with landowners there. The last 3 bullets are full green circles. We've either completed the project indicated by a check or Swamp Iron Enhanced Sand Filter. We have the easement and are moving forward. You'll see approval to go out for bids on the agenda later today. So we're making really good progress. To give you a sense of these projects that we have, basically certainty of completion is roughly 10% of this reduction. So in a year, 10% of this big goal that may take my lifetime is a good achievement we should celebrate. And so I wanted to reflect that for you all. So I'll do the same for flood priorities as well. We had kind of outlined these 3 projects, Prior Lake Outlet Pipelining, Flood Storage Project 13, which is down near the Lydia area, and then Flood Storage Project 10, which is near Buck Lake, as priorities. So the Prior Lake Outlet Pipelining is a green circle. I'll have a slide on that later, but I'm hoping to turn that into a check mark by next month. So that's a good, exciting update. And I'll talk more about that. Project 13, we haven't made contact yet, but Project 10 we're looking into, and we're hoping to have some findings at the staff level in the next couple weeks, early May, and then bring that to the board in the next couple months. So that is moving forward as well. So to recap on, see it all in one place, we've got some momentum here, and we're hoping to keep that train rolling. So just wanted to give that update on the big zoom out. And then I'll dive into some specifics of those projects that are really underway right now. So I'll talk about the ferric chloride system update, and then the Prior Lake Outlet Pipelining, as I mentioned. The ferric chloride improvements project had some delays with redesigning based on what was in the actual structure of the building, but it has quickly gained speed. There is now a garage door, as you see, and you can also see the picture on the left is our new skid. The pump and all the tubing and piping will be installed later this week, Thursday and Friday, and a tank will be slid into that neat door on Wednesday, tomorrow. So we will have essentially all of the major building components complete the end of this week. There will be some project touch-up items. The full completion is the end of May, substantial completion May 15th for that construction. But all this to mean that we are likely to be able to begin ferric chloride treatment the mid to late May. So just wanted to give you an update that is looking like it's going to wrap up well. And the driveway permits are obtained, so they are just waiting until this building, large building elements are complete so that they don't have to coordinate with a tank delivery or things like that. So that should be complete, and this will be highlighted on our board and CAC tour, so we'll get to see how spiffy it looks together. And then lastly, just to give you an update on the pipelining schedule, last month I mentioned that the contractor was planning to move forward this spring as soon as they could figure out when the lining could be delivered. So they did televise and jet the pipe, measured, and ordered the lining. The lining can be here on April 28th, which means that next week they will be doing the manhole modifications and preparing the site so that they're ready to go. April 28th is a Monday, so they'll deliver the pipelining material, and then their plan, subject to change weather and lake level, would be to pipeline April 29th through May 5th, roughly. It's a pretty short process if they don't have any delays. You can do a section. There's 4 sections that they'll run the lining, and you can do a section in a day. So it should really only be 4 days of work, but 4 long days. So hopefully all goes well, by next board meeting we'll have a freshly lined pipe.
Probably have a good video, too.
Yeah, yes. Yep. And I think that's all I had for projects.
Okay. Well, that's a great report. It's really, it's just so nice to see progress and results. And staff, you've done a great job in all areas of getting things done and making things moving towards our overall plan and goals. So I appreciate that. Has anybody else got any comments for I think the staff has done an excellent job of putting things together. Christian?
Yes, I concur with that wholly. As an example, to keep working on the iron chloride facility restoration takes a lot of effort, because you have to readjust to all these surprises that will come up. But you sort of have stuck with it and keep pushing, so I very much appreciate that. And I think the reason is also it's important to get that iron chloride treatment going again to reduce the phosphorus inlet into Spring Lake and Prior Lake. So thank you so much for that hard work, and it's very exciting with the PLOC when you think about all the things that the staff has done to make this happen. So that's a big day when that gets done, because I remember when we started talking about it and looking at the funding for it, and so it's a big deal. So thank you very much.
Well, I've got something that's even better and bigger. It's our annual report. That's really going to knock our socks off. So that's our next item here I don't know how much we're going to go. Oh, we're going to do a tour. Look at that. We don't have to leave our seat.
No, we can stay right here. We already have been on this journey. Yeah, so every year we have to complete an annual report to submit to the Board of Water and Soil Resources and the Department of Natural Resources. You've all received a copy of it, and I'll just take us on a tour of some highlights. These should all be familiar to you. So starting with operations and maintenance and our carp management progress, we reached our biomass goal and surpassed it for Upper Prior Lake. We spent a lot of time in 2024 completing the study to determine that we met this goal. And since 2016, we have removed over 97,000 pounds of carp from Upper Prior Lake. Vegetation management in 2024, we treated curly leaf pondweed on Spring, Upper, and Lower Prior Lakes. Across all three of these lakes, we treated 48.85 acres, and we also supported Spring Lake Association in delineating, so finding the boundaries of the Eurasian water milfoil in Spring Lake. In our cost share program, we work with Scott Soil and Water Conservation District for our cost share program. 27 projects were approved and 26 were completed. Over 45,000 square feet of natural landscaping. That's things like rain gardens, natural shoreline, and over 1,000 feet of stream bank restoration was completed. So these together reduced phosphorus by over 200 pounds. In our farmer-led council, we have different activities in agriculture that reduce phosphorus from the agriculture process. So we had 558 acres in our cover crop program and 449 acres in our high residue management practices. And those reduce phosphorus by 600 pounds and 200 pounds, respectively. For chloride facility, Emily just gave some great updates on the status, but at this point, in 2024, we treated from April 1st to November 26th. This decreased the concentration of phosphorus by 20% and dissolved phosphorus by 84%. And yes, as we talked about, we were working to improve the system and conduct maintenance. Just some updates on planning. A lot of these, I kept this slide kind of the same as last year, just to give an update on where these are at. So our Sutton Lake Management Plan, we continued the drone survey to study drought impacts in 2024. Fish Lake Management Plan, multiple projects are going forward. And we also have another study that came from the Fish Lake Management Plan that was contracted and in progress currently. That's the Lake Ridge Estates Stormwater Retrofit Feasibility Study. And the Swamp Lake Phosphorus and Peak Flow Reduction Feasibility Study, we had landowner coordination in 2024. Monitoring and research, data management, it's going well. We got all the historical data in our whiskey database, and in 2024, working to create more efficient processes to analyze our data. I'm not going to go through everything that we monitored, but lots of stream monitoring, lake monitoring, working with volunteers. Boat inspections, we inspected between 4 lakes from May 10th to October 12th. That's Fish Lake, Lower Prior Lake, Upper Prior Lake, and Spring Lake. We found 56 entering violations. Those violations include plants, zebra mussels, mud, and drain plugs that were not removed. At our easements, we had 113 parcels inspected, 46% were in full compliance. We, in 2024, changed the schedule for inspecting our easements. So now parcels that have been in compliance will only be inspected every 3 years. Easements where there are violations will continue to be inspected every year while we work to find a resolution. In our outreach program, some highlights. We worked with the SHWEP program, which is an education partnership, and City of Prior Lake to complete 2 events with youth. We had a tabling event. We talked about the impacts of chloride. We also held our first annual Watershed Week, which had over 80 attendees across 3 events. Very successful. We were excited to have another Watershed Week in 2025. We completed 10 news articles through different medias on our website, through lake associations, through the county newspaper on various topics. And we also maintain social media on Instagram and Facebook. We had over 14,000 views of our content through those social media. And lastly, Prior Lake Outlet Channel, of course, we conduct annual maintenance, but we were excitingly awarded over $850,000 in grants from MPCA. As we just talked about, the Prior Lake Outlet lining is underway. So in 2024, we solicited bids, and progress is going well. And that is it. So you have the annual report. We recommend that the board approves the 2024 annual report and authorizes its release to Bowser and the DNR.
Okay, well, thank you. Very good report. And I did read it, all of it, so it was very interesting. Can't believe we did all that in 2024.
I'll say also, this year, we had kind of the format of the annual report has been the same as far back as I could find copies of the annual report, so we kind of updated the look of it this year as well.
Yeah, very good. All right, any question? Well, first of all, we should have a motion. Okay, motion, motion and second. I think we're ready to vote. Any kind of questions on the report? Good. All in favor of the motion to approve the Prior Lake Spring Lake Watershed District 2024 annual report and authorize its release? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. We're going on.
Good job.
Good, very good job. Next one is the Swamp Lake Iron Enhanced Sand Filter request for bid approval. And who's going to take this one? Danielle?
That's me. I'm just getting the right screen up here to
Okay.
accompany my face because this has a lot more information on it. So we are bringing forward the Swamp Lake Iron Enhanced Sand Filter for consideration, seeking authorization to solicit bids. UR was contracted to bring this project to final design, And there's been a lot of work put into advancing this design to that point. We sought feedback from Sand Creek Township, and they had some really good feedback to ensure that the ditch upstream wasn't contributing negatively and going to decrease our lifespan of this project. So very good example of how collaboration can make sure things are comprehensive in their approach. This project has support from multiple funds. Spring Lake Township contributed some funds. There's a competitive clean water grant fund and watershed-based implementation funds. And without further ado, I think I'll just turn it to you. And unfortunately, I don't have the motion in front of me. Oh, thank you, Joni. The recommended action is a motion to authorize solicitation of competitive bids for the Swamp Lake Iron Enhanced Sand Filter project with any further non-substantive changes on advice of engineering and legal counsel.
Okay, there's a motion made by Manager Boyle.
Second.
The last line,
The last
is
one.
that the way the attorney was able to bill us?
Wait, let's get a second here, then we'll.
Second.
Second by Manager Morganberg. Okay, now bring up your discussion point.
What is that last line?
Are you talking about the last line of the motion?
Yeah.
So that,
Substantive changes on advice of the engineer and legal counsel.
yep, that just allows us, these plans came together right in the splick of time to put them in the board packet. So in case
Correct them.
he has any small changes to the bid documents.
I am educated. Thank you.
Yep,
And essentially, we're authorizing you to go out for bids.
correct.
Okay,
Well, that I got.
all right?
Yep.
Okay, any other questions, discussion? See, everybody's great? Okay, all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right, now we're going to go to 200 Street Pond irrevocable term license. This is something new. It's a new thing?
Yes, it is semi-new. This project you have seen, you may recognize from the Fish Lake Management Plan. It was identified as a project that could reduce external loads to Fish Lake. The concept is to excavate some soils that have accumulated in these ponds. The property used to have cattle on it. And so Scott SWCD has advanced the design. We have construction documents ready. We have grant funding secured. And so what we're looking at for approval today is to have board approval to enter into a agreement with the landowner that basically documents that they are agreeing to us doing this project prior to us contracting a construction contractor. And the purpose for that is we don't have an easement on this property. The project is really kind of a one and done project and doesn't really necessitate an easement for this. So with that, staff would recommend a motion to approve the district administrator to enter into the irrevocable term license with landowners for the 200th Street Pond project.
Or, somebody want to make that motion?
So moved.
Motion by Manager Burnett,
Second.
and second by Manager Morganberg. And any discussions on the motion? Oh, Manager Boyles, you're on.
I think we asked this before, but the WBIF funds are state, federal,
State,
state.
yep,
And we have pretty good reliance. Those funds will be there.
very
when it's
good
time to
reliance.
spend them. Thank you.
And one other question, I think I read it, but this expires, is there an expiration date on this?
The funds,
The license.
at the end of next year.
Okay, so it's only, it's like a temporary easement.
Yep, it's just
Okay,
a fancy word for construction easement.
it's kind of a neat instrument to use,
Yeah,
this application. All right, all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried, 4-0. Very good. Now, for the main event, Spring Lake West Iron Enhanced Sand Filter Project ordering.
okay, so as I introduced at the public hearing, the purpose of this agenda item is for the board to do the project ordering that is required of capital projects. First, there's the public hearing portion, and then there needs to be a board resolution which indicates that the intent to act and pursue this public good. And so I'll briefly recap the public good of this project is to reduce nutrients running into Spring Lake. That would be roughly 207 pounds per year, or about 7% of reduction of the total nutrient reduction needed. And I'll leave it there since this meeting has already recorded the other details. Oh, the recommended action would be that staff recommends board members to adopt Resolution 25-395, ordering the Spring Lake West Iron Enhanced Sand Filter Project.
Okay. Anybody want to make that motion to approve, and then we can discuss this? Motion to adopt Resolution 25-395?
So moved.
Motion made by Manager Morkenberg, second by Manager Boyle? No, Manager Burnett. Okay, we have a motion on the table. Any discussion? I mean, it's really, we're ordering the project start. We're kind of saying, we've outlined the project, we had the public hearing, now we can go forward.
Yes, it's a demonstration of the intent of we would like to implement this project.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah, and there'll be other things coming back to us for
correct.
project to move forward. Okay.
Correct.
Any other questions from the board members? Okay. All in favor of approving the motion to adopt Resolution 25-395, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Wow, I think that's the end of our old and new business, and now we're going to go to the Treasury report with Manager Morgenberg.
Thank you, President Loney. Yeah, first I just wanted to say again to our staff, thank you for all your hard work, everybody. It's highly appreciated, and it's so inspiring to see what you're getting done, and it does make a big difference for our streams and our lakes, and that's what our goal is. So thank you, and keep up the good work. Our financial activity reflected in this month here is both the general fund and the implementation fund are consistent with where we would expect to be this time of year. And the cash flow is adequate to cover our upcoming expenditures, and that includes the planned PLOC pipelining construction costs, where we will have to fund the bill to start with before we get reimbursed. In comparison to last year, this time, the implementation fund expenditures are more than double compared to last year. And that's reflective of the increase in project activity. So that is a very good thing. So thank you. We have the funds to do it, and you are doing it. So that's very excellent. We just got an updated financial report for 2024, and where we, like in 2025, have received significant invoices. And but looking at the overall budget, the general fund, which is the small part of our budget, came up 2% over budget. However, the implementation fund, which is the much bigger part of our budget, was well under budget. So overall, we have funds that were not expended in 2024, but they will be expected in project costs like this year and into next year as well. So overall, I would say our financial, we are in good financial standing currently.
Yeah. Looks like, yeah, our cash flow would be right on time, and with the project gets done in May, we pay them in June, and then we also get a June tax levy. So timing-wise, looks very good.
Yep.
Any questions for Manager Morkenberg? Good job. Way to go.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah,
to Joni. And I
Joni's
should also mention that we passed our audit, and very much thanks to District Administrator Giese, who is doing a phenomenal job keeping our finances under control, and so thank you very much.
Okay, that's it then for the treasurer's report. Tony, you have nothing else to add?
No.
Okay, our next item of business is a consent agenda. And this is one item of business, routine administrative items, or items not requiring discussion. Items can be removed from the consent agenda at the request of a board member, staff member, or member of the audience. Please state which items or items you wish to remove for separate discussion. Are there any items any board member wishes to remove? Okay, looks good, staff. Everybody's good? All right, so consent agenda. The main meeting minutes for February 18th, 2025 board workshop, meeting minutes February 18th, 2025 board meeting, meeting minutes March 18th, 2025 board workshop, meeting minutes March 18th, 2025 board meeting, meeting minutes of January 30th, 2025 CAC meeting, claims list and bank purchase card expenditure summary, approval for the second term for on CAC for Curtis Witt, approval for second term on CAC for Ron Hoffmeyer, and the League of Minnesota Cities liability coverage waiver, and our quarterly investment summary. And we have two other items as related to Aspen Ridge Development Agreement and Aspen Ridge Declaration of Conservation Easement. Need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Motion made by Manager Morkenberg.
Second.
Second by Manager Burnett. Okay, all in favor of the motion for the approve the consent agenda, say aye.
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 All opposed? Oh, motion carried 4-0. All right, Manager Boyles, can you read us the upcoming meeting and event schedule, which we have quite a
I
bit?
thought you'd never ask. First is the joint Board of Managers meeting with the Community Advisory Committee together on Tuesday, April 29, 6 p.m. here at City Hall over in the large Parkview Conference Room. The PLOC cooperators, pardon me, which is the Prior Lake Outlet Channel Cooperatives, have a meeting Thursday, May 15, noon, City Hall, same place, Parkview Conference Room. Board of Managers Workshop is Tuesday, May 20th, 4 p.m., City Hall again, and in the Parkview Conference Room. Board of Managers formal meeting is Tuesday, May 20th, 6 p.m., right here where you see us in the City Council chambers. Board of Managers annual retreat is Thursday, May 22nd, 5 p.m., here again at City Hall, but this time in the lower level Wagon Bridge Conference Room. And finally, the annual Board of Managers and Community Action Committee tour is Thursday, May 29, 4 p.m. That will be our time for departing from City Hall. Is that, because of the size of the bus, I presume that's a limited tour? In other words, people can't call in and ask. There you got it, folks.
Okay, very good. A lot of activity for the month of May. All right, well, we're at the point for adjournment. Need a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion by Manager Burnett,
Second.
second by Manager Morkenberg. All in favor of the motion to adjourn, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We are adjourned at 7:19. Good night, everybody.